everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Yoko Masaki Show. And I guess by the time you're hearing this, I'm hoping you guys have had a good January. This episode probably will be coming out now around March. And I decided to release this episode because I just wanted to talk about something that's been on the news now because it's been going on since March. Right now, it's March. And you probably have already heard much of the news that happened in the anime world. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it because it's sort of a sad situation that's happened recently. So many of you have already known about if you're an anime fan, if you are familiar with anime in some cases, you probably heard the news that back in 2020, I believe around August 12th, according to Variety Media Publishing, Funimation Media Group, which is the company Funimation, which has been the go-to for almost several years, for more than a few decades of anime. Most of it comes from from anime such as My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Dragon Ball Universe. The company Global Group and their streaming and all their media was in talks to acquire Warner Brothers Media's Crunchyroll, a streaming service that was at one point owned by Warner Media, and they were offered for around 7 million, I believe it was, and the company Funimation was owned by Sony. They were bought by Sony. And Sony Media offered to buy Crunchyroll from them. And it was announced that the acquisition of Crunchyroll would be in that deal around August 9th of 2021. And Sony wanted to do it because they wanted to create a full unified animation subscription service and using the other businesses as soon as possible. And then 4 days later, it was announced also that from Crunchyroll's side, that they would be including in the subscription and the acquisition, the streaming service company Verve. Now, Verve, VRV, for those who know, is a streaming service that Crunchyroll started that allowed fans to watch gaming channels, speculated fictional shows, fandom stuff, along with anime. And the streaming service at one point, like, it was the go-to for many of the anime. I loved it because it gave opportunities to watch other stuff. The last time that there was an acquisition ownership of companies, it was Anime Lab from Australia that was acquired by, and New Zealand that was acquired by Funimation. Now here's where things get a little bit tricky. Recently, I believe of this March of this year, of 2022, it has been announced that Funimation will be shutting down their streaming service and folding their entire catalog of their anime and projects into Crunchyroll. There's the tricky part. And a lot of people some people are questioning, why is that the possibility? Why is it the other way around? Because you would think Funimation bought Crunchyroll would acquisition itself into Funimation as one platform. Instead, Funimation will be shutting down and folding into Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll will be the definitive subscription service. And along with, Verve and Fuji TV with a deal with their partnerships, along with Wakanim SO video services as well, and will be named to Crunchyroll, and it will be phased, and Funimation will be completely phased out for Crunchyroll. And starting this week, by the time this episode comes out, most of Funimation's programming and their services of their shows programming will be now available on Crunchyroll. And until they can finish the acquisition of Funimation, most of the programming on Funimation will still be available. Now, as of right now, some of the programming will still be available on Funimation. But the question is the fact of what will happen to the services for people who have signed up with premium content for both Crunchyroll or Funimation. What will happen to people who have premium accounts with Funimation, who started out Funimation accounts recently, those who have digital copies of Funimation, because Funimation's physical production manufacturing, including their Blu-rays and their DVDs, of their anime content also came with digital copies as well. And those copies were also available for people to watch on the Funimation streaming service. For my personal example, I have digital copies of both Hellsing Ultimate and seasons 3 and 4 of My Hero Academia. I have digital copies of both of those that are available on my Funimation account. I can watch them on my Funimation account. However, there's nothing like that on Crunchyroll. Once Funimation's service drops down, will I lose those digital platform episodes of those digital copies? Those are questions that haven't been answered as of right now. But I can tell you there is one question that people are asking, and it's the first question that I mentioned earlier. Why is it that Funimation is going to be more into Crunchyroll and merge into Crunchyroll and phase out instead of the latter? And you have to think about the certain bits and pieces when it comes to Crunchyroll. Here now, first off, let's face it, Crunchyroll was not here at the time of Funimation. Crunchyroll came after, I believe, Funimation was arrived. Now, Crunchyroll, now, if I'm correct, May 2006 was when Crunchyroll was first launched. And it was just a video streaming service platform in the sense of it. It was just strictly for that case when people wanted to see on platforms and services like that. It was never a production company. It was more like basically the anime Netflix in a sense. It was just a streaming service. And it wasn't until, I think, 2014 that a company called Otter Media was able to merge within that company and get its licenses along with it. It became part of Otter Media, which is owned by Time Warner, of course, which owns Warner Brothers and AT&T services and what have you. As of right now, and then Funimation. Now, Funimation was a production company from the very beginning. It started as a production company that was founded by Gen Fukunaga, and it was in Silicon Valley, and it became, it was a distribution for many shows. It started as a production company that would do distribution stuff. One of course, its most popular company, which was one of its popular properties, of course, Funimation was known for, was the ownership and the distribution of anime of the Dragon Ball universe. Everything from Dragon Ball Z, the first Dragon Ball series, to the recent Super and what have you. Dragon Ball was the top billing program that was there in the sense of it. It started in Silicon Valley, relocated to North Richland Hills, and then moved to Texas, of course. Then a company called Navarre Corporation owned it for a while, around 2005, then 2011, and then Navarre sold it to a group of investors. And then between 2017 to 2019, I'm going through information that I have on my notes, Sony's Japanese company, through its Sony Pictures division, owned it. And since then, Sony owned it within Aniplex and Sony Pictures Television and Music Entertainment in Japan. So, and then, Crunchyroll, like I said, Funimation, at the time of it, was started in 1994. That's when it really launched. Where Crunchyroll started in 2006. That's the funny thing about this. The fact that Funimation started in 1994, and the Funimation started in 2006. Funimation started in 1994, and Crunchyroll wasn't launched till 2006. You would think Funimation, which started as a production company that started it first, would be the more definitive company that would own the rights to, that would be the more licensed situation. But there's a reason for that. And you have to look at the situation when it comes to the main platform, which is the streaming service. It is the fact of its bad history. Now, when you think about the streaming services between Crunchyroll and Funimation, I'm pretty sure we can all agree Funimation's streaming service was shit. It really was. there was problems. People complaining about it. People saying that it was terrible. The uploading situations, the bit rates, the streaming speeds, everything had gone wrong with Funimation. Funimation does not have a good rep with its streaming service. When it comes to releasing its anime and its release physical copies of its anime and the production value on the anime, Funimation still has top dollar with that. But when it comes to its streaming service, in the gist of that, unfortunately, they were not. And I think that was one of the main focused reasons of why it came to the point of narrowing down between Funimation and Crunchyroll, becoming which one that would be phased out and which one would stay relevant as the main streaming service of the library sense. Crunchyroll was not perfect, but it did have many more moments than Funimation did with its streaming platform. In fact, the last time I struggled with Funimation was actually 2 years ago when Funimation had finally announced that they would have their streaming platform available for the Nintendo Switch. Now, most cases, it's always a possibility that Funimation and other anime streaming services would have their streaming platforms available for other digital services and digital products, from Roku to Amazon probably, or whatever. And of course, game consoles would be king on that sense of it, with Xbox and PlayStation. So when the Nintendo Switch has had its few years as of right now, with their updates in their situation, it was not surprising to know that they would have an availability for a streaming platform on there. And that's where things still gets tricky for me. First of all, Funimation having their platform only available for premium users is kind of a deadlock giveaway. For you to not have it available for more people to watch and only for people who have a premium service is kind of limitation on your services. That's not a good thing. It's bad enough the mobile service on the mobile app, and I can say this from experience, was terrible as well when it came to Funimation. But when it comes to the services, now honestly, the only place that I've not had an issue with Funimation streaming service is literally on browser. On my PlayStation, I've had problems. On my phone, I've had problems. And on the Switch, it's, like I said, locked only for premium people. And to be fair, I can see why. And it seems like from a unanimous decision, the fact that so many people believe that Funimation services in their streaming platform was shitty, it makes sense why they decided to choose that. If anything, that's the reason why I feel like that was one of the main reasons why they decided to choose the form of Crunchyroll being the one that would phase out Funimation, and Crunchyroll would become the subsidiary company itself. The downside of that is just Funimation has had years of its production company being the superior in animation. My personal experience with Funimation was the fact that it grew so much, it phased out other companies, including the infamous AD Vision. Now, there were many problems with AD Vision, many problems. AD Vision, for those out there who don't know, is now known as Sentai Filmworks. It was a merging of companies along with Sentai Filmworks that was more of the superior company. They were responsible for many anime that had been released over the years from the early 90s. In fact, they were responsible for the first actual anime streaming service on the internet, which was once called the Anime Network. They were responsible for it. There would be no streaming platforms for anime if it wasn't for AD Vision. They set the standard for it. But when it came to video on demand streaming service, Funimation and Crunchyroll were those sets. But when it came to non-stop anime service in a streaming network online and full access of anime to watch online via browser, Anime Network was that, and AD Vision was the spearhead of that. Unfortunately, due to money situations that was secretly inside of it, and not to mention the fact that they're competitive with other companies, including Funimation at the time, AD Vision shut down and was separated into separate companies. And one of those companies that would be blossom out of it would be, of course, Sentai Filmworks, who, as of right now, has had a deal with Funimation and Crunchyroll to release and distribute their streaming episodes on the streaming services. So you can watch Food Wars, for example, on Crunchyroll because of Sentai Filmworks. Food Wars, for example, is an anime that's currently produced and owned by Sentai Filmworks. It's one of their popular ones. But at the same time, the production companies, like I said, Crunchyroll was not a production company. They were exclusively a streaming service that was able to get acquisitions and ownerships of productions from Japan. They were not really that. It wasn't until they did a deal in 2017, 2018, if I'm my estimate, when they had teamed up with Crunchyroll, with Funimation, to be able to cross-release their productions in platforms. Funimation would be responsible for the dubbing and the release on the street on the shows. Crunchyroll would take care of the ownerships and the release of those shows straight to streaming services. They would be responsible for that. And it was a temporary deal until, of course, Warner Brothers took the acquisition of Crunchyroll. But now that Crunchyroll and Funimation are owned by the same company, Sony Pictures and Sony Films, it's only right to merge the two companies together to form one streaming service library. That's the only outcome of that. But again, as I mentioned before, the fact that it's Funimation that will be merging into Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll being the definitive service and company, is the only thing that's just a little bit off, if anything. The other reasons, and these are my reasons, again, these are not legit reasons, but I'm going off of my estimated reasons of why Crunchyroll will be assimilating Funimation, and Crunchyroll will be the definitive company for the streaming services and productions. The other reason why is Crunchyroll has had more to blossom within their events and their productions of it. For example, Crunchyroll has made several deals with other companies such as Time Warner's Adult Swim with William Street to release some productions on their network, such as of right now, Shenmue, the animation based on the Shenmue video game, is a Crunchyroll production that is now released through Adult Swim. While you can watch it on Crunchyroll, you can also watch it syndicated on Adult Swim. There are several other production company shows that have worked with other companies from outside of Japan that has worked with Crunchyroll to release exclusive things. One of my favorite shows I was only able to watch on Crunchyroll because of Crunchyroll's ownership of it. Rising of the Shield Hero, if you are familiar with that series, is a show that was only been released on Crunchyroll, that has been dubbed and subbed, and it's only available on streaming services through Crunchyroll. And most of Crunchyroll's library is a lot more expanded than Funimation's. We can also say that too. So that's the other thing. Another part of that is the opportunity, is the other limit, the expansion with Crunchyroll's events that has gone on over the years. Funimation tried to do an event at one point. I forgot what it was called, but it was in San Diego Comic-Con. It was a segment in San Diego Comic-Con that didn't really blow up that much. It got a little recognition. And I remember in New York Comic-Con, they did the same thing. The year I went to New York Comic-Con in 2016, 2017. However, Crunchyroll has their very own convention, their very own full-blown anime convention, the Crunchyroll Expo. It has been going on for, I believe, going on 6-7 years now. It is an event that happens every year, and to be fair, I can understand the fact that it's become such a popular event that it's outdone what it has done. In fact, I believe there will be a Crunchyroll Expo. Yep, this year. I'm looking at the information as of right now. There will be a Crunchyroll Expo this year, 2022, in August 5th through the 7th. If I'm correct, the expo is in California. Yes, San Jose Mercenary Convention Center, and online. They have had this happen for many years, and it has known stop slowing down. It became a success. This, I believe, is the main reason why it makes sense Funimation is acquired into Crunchyroll and phases out instead of Crunchyroll phasing into Funimation. This expo alone, for the last several years, this expo has become a success. It has become a highlighted success in anime conventions in America, in North America. Let's make that clear. Not anime conventions in general, just in North America. Because you have to remember, because you have to understand, when it came to the COVID-19, a lot of these conventions were either phased out and weren't able to get a lot of success because of 2 years of absence of no longer having them, and then some of them became to the point where they were minimal to online expeditions and such. And Crunchyroll Expo had shown no signs of slowing down. That is the reason why I believe mostly it makes sense that Crunchyroll would acquiesce itself and would take assimilation for Funimation and become Crunchyroll LLC if I have to use a legal name to it. So Crunchyroll will be a full-blown production company and phase out Funimation instead of Funimation phasing out Crunchyroll. Because this event, which in 5 months will be happening, is the reason why I believe that this event is why this acquisition has happened. Like I said, this event expo has gone on for a couple years and has none shown any signs of slowing down. I believe, like I said, this event has happened since 2017, from what I'm looking at. Yeah, I believe 2017. 2017 is when they first did the convention, and they have done it since then. Within 2018 and 2019 in California. The first one, from what I'm looking at the research, Santa Clara, California, and then the two in 2018 and 19 were both in San Jose. Because of COVID, 2020 and 2021 were both online exclusive, and now they have events now with. This year, there will be a full-blown convention that will not only be in the physical locations, but will also be online as well. And I believe that's the reason why Crunchyroll has the superior advantage. And let's not forget, Crunchyroll not only also owns and organizes this event, they work with Repop, which is responsible for many conventions including New York Comic Con, C2E2, which are two of my favorites. Those two events alone are the reason why, those companies. Those are the reason why that Crunchyroll Expo has become a thing. And like I said, those are enough. That will be now officially coming in position into Crunchyroll. So, wow. And from what it looks like, Crunchyroll's Verve streaming service actually merging might be a good thing. Because from what I'm looking at, these were the companies that used to be part of Verve. There were several other channels, if you will. Crunchyroll was there for anime. Mondo Media was for adult animation. And then there was a premium selection of movies for subscribers and shows that were called Verve Select. They weren't like original programming, but it was exclusive programming. They used to have Boomerang from Cartoon Network, Cartoon Hangover, which was Cartoon Webs from Federator, like, Bee and Puppy Cat, I believe, was one of the shows. Curiosity Stream, Drama Fever, which was Korean dramas. Curiosity Stream was like Science Channel stuff. Geek and Sundry, the creators behind Critical Role before they became their own company. Esports related stuff called from Jinx TV. Machinima, which which content, which was that would soon become Rooster Teeth exclusive stuff. Art House and Classic Films from Mubi. Nick Rewind, which was Nick Classic stuff. Riff Tracks, which was commentary movie stuff with the original cast of Mystery Science Theater 3000. CISO, which was comedy that was from Saturday Night Live and what have you, but it would end up being reverged stuff. Horror films from Shudder. Tested, which is Adam Savage's company. And High Dive, and of course High Dive, which is anime and subtitles anime and Funimation stuff when they were doing their deal with Funimation teaming up together before their mergement. All of these programming channels, everything except Verve Select, Mondo Media, and Crunchyroll, all left between 2019 and 2018 to 2021. They have all left the Verve channel. So there's nothing really left in Verve. So it kind of makes sense now that Verve might as well just merge into Crunchyroll. So as of now, Verve is there, but it will not be much of a superior service that it used to be, and mostly everything from Verve will be merging into Crunchyroll. So now Verve will be gone, Funimation will be gone, and Crunchyroll will be the dominant streaming service. Now, the question is about the other situations. I'm hoping that when it comes to anime digital copies in the sense of Funimation, I'm hoping that Funimation will still excuse me, hoping that Funimation will Crunchyroll, honestly, will still be giving people the ability to have access to those. That's my complete more personally for me, because as of right now, both Funimation and Crunchyroll at the time when they were separate streaming services allowed anyone to have either free content to watch anime with ads for free or pay for the premium service, which gave you not only more access to episodes and special shows and programming on their streaming services, but also unlimited streaming moments to watch these programming and such. Verve and Crunchyroll and Funimation all had that opportunity. You either pay for the service you can use the service for free and watch limited episodes or limited shows with commercials, or you pay for the premium service. It's ad-free, unlimited to watch, to download and rewatch over and over again, and unlimited episodes to watch as they air. As of right now, aside from the digital copy aspect of things, Funimation also has stated that they will be releasing still episodes of currently airing shows that they're still continuing to air on their streaming service. Will still be uploaded on Funimation until all those programs are completely done, when they can do the acquisition of the fully phasement between Funimation to Crunchyroll. Which means most of the shows, like if they were in the current episode season of I know, for example, Funimation, I believe, has the rights to Attack on Titan, and they're currently doing a 2-part finale of the last season. They're currently still, I believe, on the first part of the final season. They have not even aired that second part of the season yet. They will still probably do that, and it will still probably be aired on Funimation before they phase it into Crunchyroll. So shows like that one and My Hero Academia and Dragon Ball Super, those shows will still be airing on Funimation streaming service until they're completed, and once they're completed, they'll probably make the transition slowly to Funimation, to Crunchyroll. My excitement, though, on this ends of it is the fact that it's not even the fact that we'll be on a better streaming service. Crunchyroll streaming service will be more superior in holding things down for the shows and their programming. But my hope is something that I probably tweeted out that you probably guys seen when they made the announcement about the phasement of Funimation into Crunchyroll. A lot of voice actors in North America have stated their expressment of hoping that they will still be able to have recruitment by Crunchyroll to their projects. The dubbing agreement that has been made by SAG-AFTRA, which is the organization for unionized workers in Hollywood for voice acting and literal acting. There is an agreement that was made by the Association for voice actors to still be able to get casting and hire in in the anime industry, which means these voice actors will still get jobs. These voice actors will still have their casting parts. They will still get the opportunity to be ADRs as well as voice directors and voice literators and writers and producers in these projects. My thing is, I'm hoping that with this agreement that these voice actors have been putting on, they will still be able to get those rights and will get the respect of that in Crunchyroll still, because it's very important, because these voice actors deserve it with all what they go through, not just doing their vocal roles. They have taken time, a lot of exercise, sense of it, some of the voice directing, some of their time and their scheduled days with a lot of their work that they've done outside of their voice work to do these roles, to be able to get paid and such. And over the years, me knowing how these voice actors are, getting to know some of them that I personally know, some of them I've gotten the fortune to meet, some of them that I've looked up to, they deserve that, if anything. They also will get, of course, unionized for healthcare and benefits for them as well in that case. The qualifications for that as well. They deserve that. And hopefully, now that the platforms of Crunchyroll and Funimation will be merging, hopefully they will still be supporting that agreement that's going to happen. Because voice actors deserve a lot more appreciation than that. They really do. There's this whole underlying $1 million question of which is better, subbed or dubbed, and I've always said for the longest, why not both? Sometimes there's moments where I like to watch an anime subbed with the Japanese accent. Sometimes I like to hear a voice actor that I am known and appreciate playing their role of it. Sometimes I want to hear Spike Spiegel speaking Japanese. Sometimes I got to hear Steve Blum with his raspy voice. Sometimes I want to hear Monica Riel put on a bubbly voice with one of her characters. Sometimes I want to hear Wendy Lee do a very seductive voice for a character other than Faye Valentine, and at the same time do directing of many vocal roles. I want to see many of my friends who I know who voice acted. One of my good friends who I've known for 5-6 years, Kieran Strange, who started their career as a pop singer, indie pop singer, to becoming a full-fledged voice actor, and done roles from Borderlands and what have you, to now doing many vocal roles and getting a lot more gigs in his roles, get paid for his work, because he has a lot of health and mental health issues that he needs to help get payment for, and he deserves that. So, if anything, I hope personally that this agreement ends up getting the support it deserves. I apologize, my phone is just being nerdsy right now. But yes, indeed, that's what I believe. But yeah, that's one of the main situations that I'm hoping for when it comes to this merger. The only sad thing, like I said, is knowing my long history of knowing Funimation in the years of what they've done in their production scenes with the releases of many anime. Many of the anime production companies, smaller ones that have come around, that's now worked with Crunchyroll in their releasements, from Sentai Filmworks to Discotek Media, would not exist if Funimation did it first. Funimation was the first one that I seen it, aside from AD Vision. AD Vision and Funimation were like Warner Brothers versus Disney. It was literally that in the anime world. And to see Funimation now go, and to see it now being merged into Crunchyroll, and now Crunchyroll being the definitive, is going to be a little bit depressed in the sense of it. When I was 16, 17 years old, I believe, is when I first knew about Funimation. And they were just known as Funimation Productions. They had this cheap little logo, and they showed syndicated episodes of Dragon Ball Z. Then I found out about them when they were airing on Toonami, on Cartoon Network, before the Toonami of Adult Swim that we know today, when they were airing on Cartoon Network in the afternoons, on weekday afternoons. and they aired episodes of Dragon Ball Z. It was at the moment, at the time of it, whenever we saw that production company name on other anime, we were like, oh, so it's the same people who did Dragon Ball Z. Not knowing it was more of not productions, it was more of acquisition of those animes from Japan. But they were the early ones that did it. And then to see them evolve from what they were to, you know, their logo and the production expanding, doing more theatrical work in the sense of it, to even the fact that we have anime now that have been released in theaters in North America, which was a rare thing that happened. The first time that my experience of that was when I was in Florida. Not in Florida, but actually it was in Arizona. They aired the Ghost in the Shell new anime film based on the Arise series. Funimation had it available in theaters for people to watch in North America, in a theater, an IMAX theater. It was unheard of. The first time that I watched Ghost in the Shell in theaters was in California, early 90s. And it was only because this theater that had the rights, that had the ownership film of it, was able to air it. It wasn't like it was in every theater in America. It was only in California in a specific theater. So it was a limited theatrical release. And the fact that now we can see everything from My Hero Academia to Demon Slayer in theaters. And you can't help but think Funimation's kind of a reason for that. But I can understand the fact that between Crunchyroll and Funimation, the fact that Crunchyroll has had a more positive look and influence in itself, with everything from its production company sense of it, expansion, to the Expo, to the Crunchyroll Expo, it kind of makes sense why they would choose Crunchyroll instead of Funimation as the source for it. The visual aspect of Crunchyroll does look a lot better. I mean, hell, even their mascot has that more sense of it. So I can understand why Funimation became the one to phase out. The other thing that I'm also hoping more that kind of relates to the dubbing situation is now that most of the production and the original shows on Crunchyroll that were only available subbed will hopefully now get the dub treatment they deserve. There are a few programs that Crunchyroll only has the ownership for that have never been dubbed or released through Funimation and gotten the proper dubbing they have. And of course, I have to bring up one in personal particular that I have known. Now, if I'm correct, in 2018, 2017, I found out Crunchyroll had the rights to release and stream seasons 4 and 5 of an anime that truly means the most to me, and all of you know it, because you wouldn't be listening to me on my podcast, Tenchi Muyo. These 2 seasons, which are short, but they're long episodes within each season, are the bridge episodes that connect between Tenchi Muyo, the Ryo-Oki series, and War on Gemnar, or Saint Knight's Tale, as it's known in Japan, which features Tenchi's brother. This series bridges those 2. So it's basically a filler series. But it means a lot more to me because it involves a lot of the main cast. My hope now that this season will finally get the dubbing it deserves, because as of right now, you can only watch the show subbed. And I have nothing against the sub voice cast on this show. Nothing. Because any anime that comes from Japan, from the studios that have been responsible for Tenchi Muyo, I welcome with open arms. I'm very more open compared to other stuff. Because you have to remember, it's a series that started in 96, 97 and has gone on for, I believe, 20 years now. I'm surprised there's no big celebration for Tenchi Muyo and its anniversary here in America. It's very heartbreaking to know this. But, yes, you can watch the episodes on Crunchyroll fully subbed. However, they have not been dubbed yet at all. And my only hope is now that Funimation's production team and the company will act, now it's phasing itself into Crunchyroll, those people who are usually casted and working in Funimation, responsible for the audio and vocal work and language work with most of the voice actors and directors, will now be able to get the acquisition of Tenchi Muyo's Ryoki's season 4 and 5 and properly dub them. Even if you don't release them physically on DVD or Blu-ray, I don't even mind that, just as long as they are finally able to be dubbed in their distribution, because we need this. Me as a Tenchi fan needs it, and I'm pretty sure those small people in the world of Tenchi need it too. And shout out to Tenchi Forum, because I'm pretty sure they would want it as well. So that's why I wanted to make that. Now, aside from that, before I end this episode of series, a lot of y'all are probably wondering, since COVID has limited itself now within the quarantine sense of it, meaning a lot of things are opening up. So I have to bring up about my future plans of it before. But before I get to that, I just want to say, I'm hoping that Crunchyroll will do us well justice with all these acquisitions of these shows. I hope they won't change much of it, even though Funimation's streaming service will be gone and the name of Funimation will be gone. Hopefully that we will still get something of the case of its streaming service within Crunchyroll, as well as the physical distributions and everything else in that sense will still be intact. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have left and what they do next. Crunchyroll Expo, the Originals, the Anime Awards, hopefully things will happen in that sense of it. Now that that's in on that sense of it, I have to bring up some updates and announcements. As of right now, I can only say convention appearances is limited to, as of right now, unfortunately, only Colossicon. Now, that does mean Colossicon will be my return to conventions, but I can't say if it will be fully confirmed yet until somewhat around mid-April, because I have to take care of a few financial situations on my end. But you will know as soon as I will know online, which is why as I always tell you, let me know on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, mostly Yoku Misaki. You can look at my work, of course, and on my website, Jirai Media, for all your photography needs. Also, you can check out both of my names and on my TikTok, Jirai Media and Yoku Misaki. I have both accounts on TikTok if you want to see any information and stuff that I have on there. So you can check those out as well. But this will be it for today's episode. I hope you guys have a wonderful March. As of right now, by the time this episode comes out, I will be going to watch the Batman movie. And you'll know more about that in a future episode as well, because I can't wait to see this movie by Matt Reeves. So with that being said, I'm going to take myself over to the Batcave. I thank you for watching or listening to today's episode of the Yoku Misaki Show. And as always, this has been your cat extraordinary reminding you to have a later days.